So it is, to my mind, it is quite interesting. What we are going to see today. So at first we will start with infiltration. So the icon, it is a special material used to remineralize the hard tissues of the tooth. Then we will go to the minimal invasive dentistry and selective caries removal. We will talk through the PRR 1 and 2. We will talk about art technique, treatment of the caries in the proximal area, CMCR, so the chemical removing of the caries tissues, and abrasive preparation of the cavity. And we'll finish with the laser or sonic preparation of the cavities. So, as I said previously, the infiltration of the caries white spot. It is the first technique when we try to avoid the mechanical preparation of the cavities. So this technique is situated between the prevention and mechanical cavity preparations. This technique allows us to change the look of the cavity. I mean not the cavity, the caries, because in this situation we don't have a cavity. Indications for using the icon is caries changes without loss of the hard tissues. This is what I said. The surface of the enamel has to be unharmed, so it should be really smooth. We can't break it. So if we've got a caries lesion which got the enamel untouched, we can try to do the infiltration. If we make X-rays, so we see that the caries is in the 1/3 of the dentin, but 1/3 of the external part of the dentin, we can also try to do the infiltration. Infiltration is also a good way to treat the white spot caused by fluorisis or trauma, especially for in the young patients. Sometimes we try to treat the idiopathic spots or MIH to save people from preparations, because we try to save as much hard tissue as we can, because even the best restoration isn't so good and so aesthetic like the natural enamel. So how it looks, how looks the procedure of the icon? It's really important to choose the good tooth. Then we have to remind about we have to protect the soft tissue. So we have to put on the rubber dam or liquid rubber dam, because we are using a really strong acid. I mean, for almost 2 minutes we place the 15% of HCl in the gel, so we have to protect the soft tissues. Then when we eat the lesion for these 2 minutes, we dry it with icon dry. It is ethanol and air, so we remove all the ether. Then when the caries is dry, we apply a special composite resin. This resin is not as resins we use for a standard composite restoration. It is really flowable. It penetrates to the depth of 600 micrometers into the dentin and into the enamel. We let this icon infiltrant for 2 to 3 minutes to leave it work. Then we remove the excess material and polymerize it for almost 3 minutes. This procedure could be used in case of buccal surfaces of all the tooths or proximal surfaces, but we have to do it a little bit different. At first, we have to check if these cavities, these lesions, not cavities, lesions, have this thick enamel untouched or it is a cavity. If we have X-rays like this presented on this slide, we can judge that this cavity could be held by the icon. And then we have to separate the tooths. We create a little bit of the space between the tooth. We place the wooden, sorry, I lost the word. We separate the tooth, so we create the space. We can look in the cavities. Then we place everything like in the previous pictures. We have to, sometimes it is better for us when we see a big cavities in the proximal surface, we prep one. I mean, like in this photo, we prep in the premolar, yes, because this cavity is bigger and probably deeper than this one in the molar. So we mechanically prep the cavity in the OD cavity in the premolar, and then we see that there is a small cavity in the molar. So we've got the access, but directly access for the surface of the molar, and we see that the enamel is still untouched, and then it is a great opportunity to use the icon. So this is like, we have to think about the icon. It is not so easy to use it. Okay, we have to choose a good lesion to do the icon. And how it looks on the proximal surfaces. As I said previously, at first we do the photo, then we make a separation of the tooth. We clean it, we place the etcher there, then when it is dry on this photo, we start to do the icon itself. It is a special device which is more like a dental floss, but this dental floss is wet by this icon. So we place it in between the tooths, then we leave it for dry. We remove the excess of the material by using the dental floss, and then we polymerize. It is really important to make some notes or something in the documentation of the patients, because the icon is not radiopaque. So when you do the X-rays after the treatment, you wouldn't see the difference and you wouldn't see the material. Due to the fact that certain filling materials are necessary for the preparation to be radiopaque. These materials adversely affect flow and penetration. So this icon couldn't get the radiopaque in these properties. So to document the treatment, it is really good to make the standard intraoral photos of the patients before and after the procedure. So our phones, our cameras, and we are able to do the documentations. Sometimes only one etching and one placing the icon is not enough, so we have to do it several times. We can do it up to 3 times, and each time could get the good result. You have to decide if this effect, which is after the first treatment, is enough for you, or you have to do it once again. For myself, I would add that it is really important to polish the surface of the icon, because it is not so smooth like the enamel, and in case of patients, there's a lot of patients who get it discolorated really fast, so we have to take care about the polishing of the icon system. In these slides, in this photo, we've got the icon placed in the front region. This is the most common thing of the common situation when we use the icon. It is after the ortho treatment, because when the braces are gone, we've got white spots on the buccal surfaces of the tooth. And it is great place for the icon. We don't have to prep this enamel. We just secure the gingiva by using the liquid rubber dam like here. Then we place the etcher. When the etcher is gone, we dry it. The application of the icon infiltrant got this really tricky small brush, which allows us to dose the icon in the really precious way. After application, we leave it for 3 minutes, then we apply it once again, we wait another 3 minutes, then we remove the excess of the material, we cure it, and then we polish it. And the result is on the last photo. Okay? So, the system of icon is already behind us. Do you have any questions about the icon?
No.
Okay. So, now we will skip to the minimally invasive dentistry. This is a method of the treating caries lesion by choosing the least invasive method of the treatment to minimize the loss of the hard tissues. So there are 4 principal rules which we have to talk about when we think about the MID. So at first, remineralization of the caries lesion, reduction of the cariogenic bacteria, repair filling instead of the replacement of them, and caries disease control. The most important for us are these 1 to 3, because it is more like our job to do than anyone else. So we have to talk with the patients. So this motivations and all of talking about the healthy of the oral hygiene is very important, and we have to think about what we do. So preparations and repairs should be done properly, because when we repair something or try to do it better, we have to think about removing the hard tissues, because we are working and we are not able to save the hard tissues of the tooth when we prep the cavity. Even when we try to remove the old filling, we prep the tissues each time. So how many times we have to, if we do it several times, the walls will be thinner and thinner and thinner, and then it is more breakable. So if we've got the cavity which could be repaired instead of replacement, we have to do it. Okay. Sometimes I don't mean that we have to make 4 or 5 fillings in the one tooth. No, we try to make it aesthetic way, but we don't remove all the composite, because of the adhesive materials are able to get repaired. It is not like the amalgam or GIC, which are not able to be repaired. In case of adhesive dentistry, we are several options to repair the fillings instead of replace them. So when we talk about cavities, we have to remind ourselves about how the caries cavity starts. So the start of the cavities are when the development of the caries lesion occurs when the dynamic balance between remineralization and demineralization is more in the demineralization way. So we have to avoid the demineralization, and this is the first step. So the biological approach to early caries lesion. This approach is to change the oral environment to minimize demineralization and create conditions conducive to remineralization of the lesion by educating the patients about and what we talking about with the patients about the frequency of eating carbohydrates, effective plaque removal, optimal stimulation of the saliva glands, the use of properties to reduce the bacterial flora, and use the fluoride prophylaxis. I mean that fluoride prophylaxis is nowadays it is a little bit of the problem because more and more the patients think that fluoride is something wrong and they are against the fluoride, and we have the results of that, especially in the children of that people, because we've got so much cavities caused by reduction of the fluoride in the toothbrushes, in every aspect of the oral hygiene. So, if we talk about the surgical, I mean the mechanical preparation of the caries lesions, we have to decide when we start the mechanical preparation and when we are doing it. So we do it in the caries lesion extinct the outer third of the dentin in the patients of the low risk of the caries, or the caries lesion crosses the enamel dentin junction in case of the patients who fail to reduce the high risk of the caries. So our way to treat the patient is adjust to the patient. We have to adjust the oral hygiene. We have to place the patient in the group, the risk, the group of the risk, yes, of the caries cavities, and then we have to think what is the best for the patient. In case of many patients, the best way it is the second one, because there's a big amount of the patients with hygiene is really pure. So we have to prep a lot of cavities. Okay. So when we talk more about the mechanical preparations, we have to consider to preserve, to save the hard tissues in every case. It is not important that it is a small case, small cavity, or it is even the largest cavity. I think the larger cavity are more important for us. We have to think twice in the biggest cavities, because the mechanical is something which is really important in the cases, especially in the molars and premolars. We've got a lot of forces going through the tooth, so we have to think about the mechanical way. So as much of the hard tissues which stays in the cavity, make it stronger, so the tooth has a better future. So today it is only necessary to access the lesion, remove the infected and degraded tooth tissues. To such an extent, the remineralization of the remaining dentin is possible. So it is very important. We don't have to remove all of the dentin, which is demineralized. We have to remove the soft tissue. When we got the hard tissue, we'll leave it there, even if it is demineralized. The use of adhesive restoration materials allows the enamel to be undermined, and as it will be supported by the adhesive filling. So we don't have to remove the enamel, which would be removed in case of GACs or amalgam fillings. So here we've got something what I would like you to show why we have to think about the deep and big cavities. Because in this case we've got, of course, the soft tissue, which is located here, and we've got some layers of demineralized tissue located here. Yes, this demineralized tissue, if we make a holistic removal of the dentin, will end by this. So we will got the pulp heart, and we will do the endodontic treatment or biological treatment of the pulp. But in case of our materials, we can remove only the soft tissues of the caries and leave this space untouched. We believe in remineralization of this tissue, and because of the using the odontotropic materials and composite fillings, the pulp will produce the dentin. Sorry, my mouth is rubbish. We will place the third part of the dentin here. So the restorative approach to this tooth, it is to remove the soft tissues from the caries cavity and then place the material, saving the tooth from the endodontic treatment and biological treatment of the pulp. So, European Society of Endodontics get few new concepts of the caries disease. First of all, we've got non-selective cavity preparation, complete removal of the soft and compact caries dentin from the lateral and intraverticular walls of the cavity until hard dentin is reached. This approach often leads to expose the pulp. Selective cavity preparation. It is less invasive method of the non-selective cavity preparation, recommends the especially in children and adolescents. In that two cases, we are really concerned about the pulp. So there's a lot of time for these tooths. So we try to keep them as long as we could alive. Okay. So selective preparation of the cavity to soft dentin. Soft dentin remains only on the intraverticular cavity wall, and caries dentin on the lateral walls is removed to the hard dentin. This is the case when we are not able to remove soft tissue in the hole because we will end with the exposure of the pulp. In that case, we use the odontotropic materials as a temporal filling, like zinc oxide with eugenol or biodentin, which could be placed in the cavity as a temporal filling, and after several months we remove the temporary filling. We prep a little bit of the soft tissue, we remove that soft tissue, and we got the hard tissues, which are a product of the odontotropic materials. So in that case, we also save the vitality of the tooth from the endodontic treatment. Selective preparation of the cavities to compact dentin. Compact dentin remains only on the intraverticular cavity wall, and caries dentin on the side walls was removed as in the above. So in this case, we've got a little bit smaller cavity, which allows us to get the compact dentin on the bottom of the cavity. In that case, we can place the layer, we can place the composite material and finish the treatment in the single appointment. Okay, so now we will go through the PRR 1 and 2. So preventive resin restoration, type 1 and type 2. The first procedure, it is used in the case of fissures and which appearance indicates the presence of the caries. So it is more like fissure sealing, but in this case, we've got fissures which are not so nice like the good healthy ones. Here we've got some thoughts about the caries in the fissures. So at first we're checking with the scope of the changes. Then we will open the fissures with a diamond burr, but we have to stay in the enamel layer of the tooth. Yes, we don't go to the dentin. When we remove a little bit of the enamel and all caries is gone, then we cover the widened fissures with fissure sealant, of course after etching and cleaning the tooth. So the PR1, it is more like a little bit widening the fissures. The PR2, the indicators for the extended sealing, it is when the previous seal is gone, multiple losses of the sealant, and we are not able to place it better, or when we've got the diagnostically uncertain condition of the furrows and the risk of the poor seal retention without widening the fissures. This is the three main reasons when we do the PR1. PR2. The PR2 is a little bit more complicated, but in this situation, we've got small cavities located in the chewing surfaces of the molars and premolars. In this place, we prep the caries. We do the small filling, which is after the filling, we open the fissures and we secure them by the sealant. So it is connection between the PR1 and small cavity preparation. In this small cavity preparation, we have to think about it because we filled it and we have to leave the space for the sealant to let the sealant be the whole part of the fissures. So at first, we make a spot preparation of the caries cavity and fill it with the GICs or with the sandwich methods because we try to leave the material which allows us to give some fluoride to the tissues. Then we have to remind about filling that should not reach the very entrance of the cavity, because it is important to leave the space for a sealant. It is the main error in that technique. Converting the cavity and fissures are not affected by the caries with a fissure sealant, and then it is possible to fill the cavity. Of course, we have to remind that we can fill the cavity with semi-liquid composite materials. It is also a good thing. Okay. Then we've got the RT technique. RT technique is a method of the therapeutic procedure introduced by the World Health Organizations for developing countries where the availability of medical service is reduced. This method involves the removal of the self-demineralized dentin with hand tools like excavators and filling the cavities with the glass ionomers material using the single press method, pressing the material with a finger and cutting off the excess material before it is fully set. This technique in the developing countries is commonly used, but in our part of the world, most of this technique is used only when with the children which are not working with us, or in case of people with disabilities, which doesn't allow us to work in proper way. This technique shouldn't be used in the standard cases. Okay. So I don't know why this part of the presentation is in Polish, but I will translate it for you. Here we've got several approaches to preparation, to minimal invasive preparation of caries cavities located in the proximal surfaces. So in case of proximal surfaces, we are working to save as many of hard tissues as it could, because when the whole surface, the tooth got something like a ring. The ring of the tooth is the enamel located in the region proximal and in the proximal regions and in the buccal and lingual side of the tooth. I will show it in the photo in a minute. Okay. So we try to avoid the removing of the healthy tissues. In case when we got the proximal cavity and we've got the cavity in the biting surface, so we can make something called tunnel preparation, and I will show in a minute what it looks like. When we've got the cavity in the proximal surface, and we've got tooth which is located in the mouth, so it is more in the buccal side, not in the lingual side. It is rotated. We can make something like keyhole preparation. And in case of small cavities located in the proximal surfaces, and when the biting surface is healthy, we can make the fissure. It is wrong word, fissure, but really small fissure preparation in the proximal surfaces. So this fissure preparation is don't mess with the PRR. It's not the fissure on the biting side. We create a fissure in the proximal side. So we perform it when the lesion is located near the marginal edge. The lesion is accessed through the other slope of the marginal edge by means of the thin flames. Maybe I will show it also in the video on the end, because I found something really nice. Okay, we secure as much of the margin edge as possible. We create the shape of a box or sucker. The outline of the cavity is not increased by the furrows of the occlusal surface. Tunnel preparation. And tunnel preparation get access to the cavity in obtained by preparation obliquely from the recess of the occlusal surface, leaving the marginal edge intact. So we've got two variants of this preparation. First one is open tunnel preparation, when we make opening on the proximal surface and in the occlusal surface of the tooth. The closed tunnel preparation, it is when we leave untouched enamel on the proximal surface. This is a little bit harder for us to get this type of tunnel preparation. And how it looks on these graphs. Here we've got the closed tunnel preparation. We've got through the occlusal side into the proximal side. And here we've got the same approach, but we've got open technique. When I was talking about the ring of the tooth, here when we look on this diagram, we've got something like this. Sorry, I have to do it on my touchpad on the laptop instead of my mouse, so my drawing technique is really pure, but more or less we've got this enamel between internal layer and external. This ring keeps the mechanical properties of the tooth. So the resistance for the forces is better when we leave it untouched. So it is very important for us to save it. Keyhole preparation. So this preparation could be done when the cavity is located 2 mm from the gingival margin. The marginal edge is unchanged. The tooth is incorrectly positioned in of the tooth arch, or the absence of the edge of the tooth next to this, which we are preparating. So we've got direct access for the proximal surface of the tooth. In that case, we don't have to, and we couldn't remove the soft tissues. So we get access directly. Chemomechanical preparation of the cavities. In this case, we are talking about the Karisolv system. This is a gel which is sodium chloride and sodium hydroxide forming 0.5% sodium hypochlorite solution with pH like 11. So we place it in the cavity, we let it to work in the cavity, then we remove it with the handpieces like excavators to remove the changed dentin, and then we make a filling. The same story with Opacaria, and we are going to the abrasive treatment of the caries cavities. In that way, we use we use air and abrasive agent, I mean aluminum oxide, to remove the tissues. It is a very effective way to remove the tissues, and we are not able to damage the pulp or we create a lot of heat. We also eliminate the acid etching from the cavities, but there are some disadvantages of this technique. This technique is really nice, but it has the main disadvantages, which is that this technique removes easily the healthy tissues than the caries one. So we remove it more effectively, and it is hard to do it proper way. We need to use the rubber dam, and we cannot use this technique with people with chronic respiratory disease, like anything we do in the oral cavities. Laser technique of caries treatment. It is technique which uses non-contact application of the energy pulses from the laser to the water molecules contained in the tissue, which causes the evaporation. In that technique, we use a lot of lasers. We can use CO2 laser, yak neodymium laser, or yak erbium laser. Of course, also the UV system. These lasers cause a lot of heat. So when we use them, we have to cool the tissues and the laser by using the water cooling. It is really important because in this technique, in deep caries preparations, most of them ends with overheating the pulp. The cooling is really essential for this technique. This technique allows us to eliminate the vibrations from the preparations, and we get the sterility of the cut surface, because everything which is cut by the laser is sterilized also. Sonic and ultrasonic preparation of the cavities. It is when we use the scaler or any other device, sonic device, to remove soft tissues from the cavities. It is a really nice technique. It is used more common than the previous two. We've got diamond-coated tips, which allows us to prep the cavity more or less the same like the standard diamond burrs on the high speeds. So for the end of this lecture, I would like to show you the film with the preparation, Fischer preparation, but I have to find it. Give me a second. Okay, so I will show you the film which allow us to see the Fischer approach to the proximal services. Okay, after the film, we end our lecture today. Okay. Can you hear the film? Can you see the film?
We can see, but we cannot hear.
If you got any questions about what is on the film, I will tell you a little bit. So at first we place the rubber dam, then we place the wooden wedge to make a little bit of the space between the tooths. We place the matrix which separate the tooths cavities. Then right now the doctor is preparing the cavity from the surface. Right now you can see the cavity as it is. Really small preparation. Once again we place the matrix. We place the wooden wedge. We etch the cavity. Then bonding of the cavity. And right now we start the filling of the cavity. Here we've got the filling done by the flow composite, which could be done in this technique. It is easier for us to place the material correctly in the cavities because we can place it as much as we like. Right now it was a nice trick done here by a doctor because he also bends the matrix by the handpiece as near the tooth as he could. So he created quite a nice surface. Of course, removing the excess of the material, then polishing, and we've got tooth which was prepared. Okay. So right now, more or less, I said everything what I prepared for today. Do you have any questions for that?